Unveiling the shocking truth. Why did Jesus pray to God at midnight? The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant rustle of trees swaying under the weight of unseen secrets. It was at this eerie hour that a single figure stood alone, shrouded by shadows, the flicker of candlelight framing his face like an ancient relic in a museum. The air felt charged, as if the very fabric of the universe was holding its breath, waiting for a revelation. Why did Jesus, the Son of God, pray to his Father at the witching hour? It was a question that floated on the lips of his disciples, heavy with curiosity and fear, a question that seemed to pierce through the solitude of the night, echoing in the darkness. Outside, a patchwork of stars hung in the sky, each twinkling as if eager to eavesdrop on divine deliberations. The moon bathed the quiet landscape in an otherworldly glow. But it wasn't just the natural beauty that struck the heart. No, the air smelled different tonight, tinged with something electric, hints of mystery swirling like the clouds above. As Jesus knelt in the garden, tensions crackled, thick as fog rolling in on a cold autumn night. The disciples lay scattered around him, their dreams unknowing of the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. A weird feeling settled in their bones, an unshakable sense that something terrible was about to unfold. What was so important about these late-night prayers? Was it desperation? A plea? Or the promise of a chilling betrayal? Suddenly, a sharp snap of a twig echoed through the grove. A collective gasp rippled through the sleeping disciples. Eyes shot open. They exchanged nervous glances. What had shattered the stillness? The weight of the moment was thick, suffocating, as disbelief tangled with the shadows creeping closer. Fear crawled beneath their skin like 1,000 ants, igniting their instincts to flee. And just as they began to stand, Jesus' voice dripped with urgency. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension hung heavier now, a thundercloud poised to unleash. A figure loomed in the entrance of the garden, shrouded in darkness, a betrayer dressed in familiar skin. The very air seemed to tremble at the sight. Jesus locked eyes with the figure, a single tear escaping down his cheek, shaking the hearts of his disciples. What was set to happen? The night still held its breath, secrets waiting to explode into the dawn, leaving everyone trembling at what was to come. Would they survive the revelation that awaited them? The figure stepped forward, the faint light glinting off the silver coins that dangled at his waist. It was Judas. The shadows clung to him as if they were part of a cloak, whispering to him the dark secrets he had agreed to tell. The disciples' breaths quickened, hearts pounding like war drums, echoing against the stillness. Jesus remained kneeling, a statue of calm amid the raging tempest of emotions swirling around him. Judas. The name fell from Jesus' lips like a prayer, heavy with bewilderment and sorrow. The other disciples stirred, groggy from sleep and confusion, their eyes darting between their leader and the newcomer, the sense of foreboding palpable. What treachery lay at the heart of this man they trusted? But Judas merely stared back, eyes glinting with determination. Rabbi, he said, his voice smooth but the undertone sharp as steel. It's time to fulfill our destiny. A collective gasp arose from the disciples, fear slicing through their disbelief. The night seemed to thicken, the trees now sinister watchers in a dark theater. Is it betrayal that you seek? Peter asked, his voice tremulous yet fierce, clenching his fists at his sides. The taste of betrayal lingered bitter on his tongue. Judas shrugged, his expression cold and steely. You don't understand. I am doing what must be done. This is for a greater purpose. Those words sent shivers down their spines. The very essence of hope began to falter, exchanged for a chilling realization. What greater purpose required such treachery? The moon revealed the truth harshly. This was no ordinary night. It was the beginning of a path paved with sorrow and sacrifice. Confusion turned into anger, flames flickering in their chests. "You think that your betrayal carries weight?" Andrew interjected, stepping forward, attempting to mask fear with bravado. "I don't expect you to understand," Judas responded, dismissing them with a wave. "You have no idea of the weight this burden holds for me." But as he spoke, his hands betrayed him, trembling as he reached for a pouch at his side. The disciples flinched, hearts racing, each second now stretching like an eternity. What were they to do? "Stop!" Jesus' voice rang out, filled with authority yet laced with profound sadness. "Judas! Is this how you repay love with betrayal?" Silence fell heavily, a dense fog settling over them as if the very air was struck still. Jesus rose slowly, his gaze piercing straight into Judas' soul, challenging the darkness coiling within. For a moment, it was as if the world paused. The disciples felt their collective heartbeat pulsing erratically, caught in a moment stifled by grim uncertainty. Were they too weak to intervene, or was they to be mere witnesses to this harrowing culmination of fate? "What will you do?" Judas hissed, urgency creeping into his tone as he sensed the rising tension. The stakes were higher than they had ever been, and their fates were interlocked in this dreadful moment. But just then, a rustle came from the edge of the garden. More figures lurked beyond the shadows, eyes watching, waiting, poised for destruction. Their fates were no longer just their own. The night held a new mystery, darker and more daunting than the last. What was to come next? As the chill deepened and shadows shifted, the disciples realized they were standing on the brink of a cataclysmic event. Would they venture beyond their fears, or would darkness consume all? Jesus' gaze flickered between Judas and the encroaching shadows. The rustle turned into whispers, a dissonant hymn vibrating through the crisp night air. The trees loomed overhead, their branches clawing at the sky, almost as if threatening to tear the veil of darkness apart. "What do you want, Judas?" Peter's voice was a fragile thread, cracking under the weight of unspoken fears. The grip of dread tightened around their hearts, a suffocating coil they couldn't shake off. "It's not about what I want," Judas replied, his tone a blend of defiance and sorrow. "It's about what must happen. The world is changing." Andrew stepped closer, a flicker of resolve igniting in his eyes. "Changing or destroying? You speak of purpose, but you drown in betrayal." His hands shook slightly, not from cowardice, but the surge of adrenaline coursing through him. The shadows loomed larger now, spilling from the trees and threatening to enfold them all. The air crackled, and the disciples instinctively huddled together, a desperate circle of solidarity confronting the encroaching fear. Suddenly, a shout shattered the tense silence. From the cover of darkness, soldiers emerged, torches illuminating their faces, twisted in determination. The disciples' breath hitched in unison. Something dark was rising. "Stay back," Jesus commanded, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "You are making a grave mistake." But the soldiers advanced, their intentions clear, swords drawn and glinting ominously under the moonlight. Judas's expression twisted, caught between the weight of his choice and the horror unraveling around him. "Rabbi, this is why I came," he muttered, his voice barely audible, a mixture of regret and conviction swirling in his chest. "Then let us face this together," Peter shouted, stepping forward boldly. "You may have a role in this, but you don't need to choose betrayal over love." Momentum surged through the group, their fear transformed into action. But Judas held up a hand. "You don't see. You can't see. This doesn't just happen to us." The soldiers halted, words exchanged. Judas's voice dropped to a whisper, meant for no one else. "This is a sacrifice we must endure. He is more than a man. You must trust me." Trust. In that fleeting moment, a gust of wind howled through the grove, stirring the leaves, reflecting the internal storm within Jesus. Was this the moment to make a stand, to defy the darkness? "Judas," Jesus pleaded, "trust is not given lightly. You can still turn back." But as quickly as he spoke, he understood the gamble had been cast. The soldiers surged forward, and the disciples braced themselves for the storm they could only glimpse, the weight of inevitability crashing upon them, And then, in a flash, the night erupted into chaos. Struggles ensued, cries of fear and pain pierced through the air, mingling with the blaring shouts of soldiers. Swords clashed, and the garden became an altar of impending tragedy. In the midst of the chaos, Jesus caught Judas's eye for one last heartbeat. The hope in Jesus' gaze flickered like a candle in the wind, barely hanging on the possibility of redemption hanging by a thread. As shadows swung wildly, they faced a brutal reality. What sacrifice awaited them, and who would emerge from this trial unbroken? As the disciples fought valiantly, a single realization struck like a lightning bolt. Betrayal was just the beginning of an unraveling revelation. What would remain after the storm? The night held uncertainties that echoed within their hearts. What truth would be unveiled in the tempest of betrayal? Amidst the chaos, the air thickened with palpable fear. Jesus' presence surged with unyielding strength, even as shadows draped over the disciples like an ominous fog. The sound of clashing swords and shouted commands underscored the urgency of the moment, creating a symphony of terror. "Stay together!" Jesus bellowed, voice rising above the fray. "We fight not against flesh and blood, but for what is just." Peter, resolute but trembling, swung his sword with ferocity, deflecting a strike that almost caught him off guard. Adrenaline electrified his veins, but terror lurked just beneath the surface. "We can withstand this," he shouted, desperation cracking his voice, yet pride igniting his spirit. Around them, confusion erupted. Some soldiers faltered, sensing the righteous fury emanating from the disciples. But the darkness pressed on, relentless, pushing forward with an insatiable hunger for blood and discord. "Judas!" Andrew yelled, desperation in his tone. "Join us. Stand with your brothers. This isn't who you are." Judas hesitated, torn between the shadows of his betrayal and the light of their bond. For a fleeting moment he stepped back, his heart pounding against the weight of his choice. Was it too late to turn back? Was there still a sliver of grace left in the world? But the clamor around him drowned out his inner battle. A soldier lunged forward, blades clashing, and with a quick movement, Peter shifted, pushing Judas to the side. "Fight!" he urged, eyes blazing, but uncertainty gripped Judas, paralyzing him. Just then, as if summoned by the turmoil, a bright light flared over the scene, scattering shadows like leaves in the wind. The soldiers paused, shielding their eyes. It was no ordinary light. It poured forth from Jesus, illuminating his figure as he stood firm, the embodiment of defiance against the encroaching darkness. "Let this be a day of reckoning," Jesus declared, voice powerful and clear, cutting through the noise like a sword. "There is a greater battle at play, and it begins within each of us." Words hung in the air, weaving through the combat like an ethereal thread connecting the fighting men and women on both sides to something larger than themselves. In that moment, doubt faded, and the disciples rallied around their leader, drawing strength from the light emanating from him. As the soldiers took a step back, uncertainty grasped their hearts. What did this mean? Could they really fight someone who bore such light? But their hesitation was short-lived as the captain growled, snapping them back to reality. He rallied them again, thrusting them into the melee with renewed ferocity. "Now!" the captain shouted as he lunged forward, carving through the disciples' defenses with brutal efficiency. Andrew's heart raced as he struck anew, adrenaline sharpening his focus. "Stand strong!" he called, all depth of fear set aside as the fight evolved from chaos into a dance of survival. Yet, in the frenzy of battle, a background thought pierced the veil. What if Judas turned now, amidst this frenzy? What if he reclaimed his place among them? But deeper, another question surfaced: what were they fighting for, really? In Judas's eyes, a myriad of emotions flickered: anger, regret, longing. Each clash of swords echoed like a heartbeat, reminding him of the bond he was slowly fracturing. As the battle raged, he found himself drifting closer to the light, its warmth and unexpected comfort amidst the violence surrounding him. In the heart of battle, Jesus' voice rose again, rich with unwavering conviction. "Forgiveness is our greatest weapon. Let love prevail. Let it guide your hands." Yet, at that moment, a figure emerged through the swarming soldiers, a traitorous shadow. The captain wielded a dagger unlike any other. It glistened in the smoldering light, symbols etched upon its blade. Jesus' eyes locked onto this new threat, understanding washing over him. He recognized the weight of destiny resting on this fateful confrontation. But would Judas see it too? Seconds stretched into eternity as the figure advanced, a flickering lantern in the sea of chaos signifying an imminent choice, perhaps the most critical of all. Could they change their destinies? Would they seize the power of love and light amidst the darkness threatening to consume them? Or was this their destined unraveling, the moment where everything changed? The truth was close now, lurking beneath the surface, ready to surge forth with revelations that could shatter the night. And with that, the soldiers closed in, readying themselves for the final clash as hearts raced and futures hung in the balance. The culmination of choices now lay right at their fingertips. What would that final choice reveal? Chaos crackled through the air like electricity. The clash of steel rang out, a brutal symphony that echoed through the darkness. Jesus stood unwavering, a beacon of light amidst the storm, his presence invigorating his disciples. But doubt lingered in the corners of their minds. With each swing of his sword, Peter felt the weight of the moment. Every parry drained his strength, but he pressed on, fueled by a deep yearning to reclaim the bond he feared might be shattered forever. He cast a glance at Judas, whose eyes flickered with indecision, caught between the shadows of betrayal and the call of brotherhood. "Judas! Your choice matters now more than ever," Peter shouted, his voice barely cutting through the din. The captain of the soldiers advanced, brandishing the glistening dagger with malevolence. Each step he took felt like the tread of fate, as if the ground beneath them rippled with the gravity of his intent. "You think your light can save you?" he taunted, his eyes fixed on Jesus. "Your followers will fall before dawn." But Jesus remained resolute, arms wide, emanating an aura of defiance that pushed back against the encroaching shadows. "We are more than mere shadows," he shouted. "Love will not yield to fear. Love unites us, even now." As the captain lunged forward, the world around them fell silent, a hush enveloping the chaos, suspended in time. Everything seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable collision. Then, like a lightning strike, the soldier's dagger sliced through the air. But Judas acted, a flicker of resolve igniting his spirit just as the blade was about to reach Jesus. With breathtaking speed, he pushed forward, the lines of conflict fading for one desperate heartbeat. He intercepted the blow, the dagger grazing his arm as blood spilled warm and red against the cold night. "Judas!" Jesus' voice echoed, a mix of urgency and horror. The pain shot through him, but it cracked open something buried deep within. In that moment, anger, shame, and hope surged together in a whirlwind of emotion. "I've been running from this truth," Judas breathed, his voice wavering but strengthened by the pulse of pain. "I cannot betray you, not like this." The soldiers froze, uncertainty clouding their faces as the tide shifted. With newfound strength, Judas stood tall, drawing a deep breath. "I stand for love," he declared, wielding an energy that surged through him, igniting the air around them. Jesus caught Judas's gaze, the weight of forgiveness evident between them. They were intertwined in a renewed bond, a web of destiny pulling them closer. "Forgiveness is powerful," Jesus murmured, strength shimmering in his eyes. "You have chosen life." Battle resumed almost immediately, but now the disciples rallied around Judas. The soldiers sensed a shift, fear creeping back as they faced not just men, but a united front strengthened by hope. "Together that is our power," Peter roared, raising his sword high. The disciples merged into a singular force, their confidence renewed. The onslaught of the soldiers faltered, hesitating before this unexpected wave of resistance that surged through the disciples. But as the melee raged on, an unsettling truth loomed in the air, a knowledge that the battle was not just against flesh and blood. It was a fight against betrayal, darkness, and the weight of decisions that could change lives forever. The question gnawed at their hearts: what sacrifices would they endure for one another? Shadowed figures began to emerge, hidden within the crevices around them. Were they allies? Or something far more sinister? The captain of the soldiers, cornered by the unity of the disciples, snarled in desperation, "You may think you've won, but this battle is merely a spark for the storm ahead." With one swift motion, he signaled to the shadows, the tension thickening. As the clash continued, darkness stirred, revealing what lay behind the whispers of a greater force, an enemy more formidable than swords and daggers. The night grew heavy with unspoken fears, and beneath it all, questions loomed what waited in the darkest corners of their hearts? What catastrophic choices had yet to unfold? And as the disciples fought fiercely, a deeper truth began to surface. What lay in store for them when the dawn finally broke? A chilling scream shattered the air, a voice that clawed its way through the melee, echoing shadows that whispered secrets of despair. The soldiers hesitated again, eyes widening, searching the darkness for the source of that sound. Tension clung to the scene like a wet blanket. From the periphery, a figure emerged, silhouetted against the dim amber glow of betrayal's light. It was one of the soldiers, bloodied and wearied yet unmistakably terror-stricken. "Run!" he shouted, his voice a frantic plea. "They're coming!" An icy grip of dread ran through the disciples as the murmur of the unseen surged around them. A collective instinct kicked in. They formed a tighter circle around Jesus, a wall of resolve. But the shadows kept creeping closer, coalescing into grotesque shapes that stirred unease and fear. "Don't give in to the panic!" Peter yelled, swinging his sword wide, trying to ward off the encroaching darkness. But each swing felt futile as shadows danced ominously, whispering promises of despair. His heart raced, uncertainty flooding in. What if their unity was all a mirage, doomed to shatter at dawn's cruel light? "Focus on him!" Jesus commanded, the strength of his voice mingling with the chaos, drawing every disciple's gaze to him. "We stand here not only against flesh but against despair and betrayal. Together, we will not fall." But as the disciples regained their strength, a flicker of light shimmered from the edge of darkness. One solitary figure shrouded in a cloak stepped forward, face obscured. "You seek the dawn? I offer you truth wrapped in seduction," the figure hissed, voice silky, dripping with malice. "Who are you?" Judas dared to challenge, the fire in his heart shifting toward an icy wariness. With exaggerated flair, the stranger tossed back the cloak, revealing a face that ran stiff along the line of familiar yet distorted. "I am the doubt that gnaws at you. The shadows of your past, present, and future, all lurking here," he cackled, dark eyes gleaming with chaotic delight. The disciples faltered, a ripple of uncertainty coursing through them. Each word seemed to peel away their determination, exposing the raw, seething fears hidden beneath their resolve. "What if your love fails? What if you are not enough?" the figure taunted, weaving among them like smoke. "Enough!" Jesus thundered, stepping forward into the heart of the shadows. His face glowed with an unyielding light. "We define our own truth through love. Not your lies!" The figure recoiled, snarling, sensing the spark of faith igniting dangerously. But shadows surged forward like swirling whirlpools, wrapping around Jesus and the disciples, seeking to extinguish that flicker of faith. Suddenly, the air thrummed, vibrating with an ancient power as Judas shouted, "No more! I stand against this darkness." He surged forward, shaking off the fear that had gripped him before. His blood-stained arm glinted, a symbol of sacrifice, a mark of rebirth. As he charged, the screams of the fallen echoed through the battlefield. They reverberated with raw emotion, a collective cry for justice, for understanding, for salvation. The mysterious figure laughed even harder, a shrill sound that shattered the stillness around them. "Can you resist the inevitable? Betrayal breeds chaos." But as shadows twisted and morphed, the whispers of doubt faded into resolve. The disciples surged forward together, fighting for something far greater, something that reached beyond mere existence. Yet amidst the tension, that figure grinned wider, as if knowing a truth hidden from them all. "This is only the beginning. The real storm is coming, and it will shake the very foundation of your beliefs." Then the ground trembled ominously beneath their feet, and the shadows began to pull back, receding momentarily with the promise of a greater conflict hanging like a dark cloud overhead. But they hadn't disappeared. They lingered, like a bad dream refusing to fade. Prepare yourselves," Jesus warned, gaze locked onto the shifting darkness. "The dawn will bring more than just light. What truth would arise when they faced the merciless glare of day? Would the bonds forged in battle withstand the tests that lay ahead? Would Judas's revelation hold against the coming storm? The answers echoed yet unheard, chilling the very air around them. The ground shuddered violently, sending ripples of fear coursing through the hearts of the disciples. With each tremor, shadows darted and twisted, wrapping themselves tighter around both the brave and the fragile. An ominous howl tore through the air, as if the very spirits of the damned urged them on, warning them of what was inevitably coming. Tension crackled like electricity. Jesus, firm and unwavering, kept his gaze steady. "Our faith is our shield," he said, each word a holy command that echoed through the fog of despair. But even the bravest hearts felt the weight of doubt gnawing at the edges of their resolve. Peter exchanged glances with Judas, his brow furrowed. They were all thinking the same thing. How much longer could they hold together? "Do not let that shadow consume you," Jesus urged. "Each step we take leaves a mark on this world. We cannot allow darkness to triumph over our light." The fire in his eyes burned brighter, casting flickering warmth against the cold encroaching night. But that flicker was a frail flame, and just as the disciples sought to rally around Jesus, the cloaked figure lunged forth again, his laughter cutting through the air like steel. "You think blind faith will save you? Look at yourselves," he spat, his eyes glowing with sinister mirth. "You are all teetering on the brink of despair. Your minds, your souls, I can taste them. I am your doubt, and I will feast." Judas felt his strength waver, the shadows whispering sweetly in his ear, telling him of his failures, his fears, the moments lost. He shook his head violently, trying to dispel the haunting voice that called him back to the darkness. "No!" he shouted, clenching his fists. "I choose to believe. We are stronger than you think." As if stirred by the power behind his words, the wind whipped around them, swirling up dust and debris. Peter and the others echoed Judas, their voices intertwining, forming a chorus of defiance. "We choose love. We choose faith." They shouted in unison, their hearts beating a warrior's cadence, but the figure merely sneered. "How naive! The dawn will not save you. It will bring revelation. What will you do when the light reveals your own shadows?" In that moment of chaos, a blinding flash illuminated the battlefield, heart-stopping brilliance illuminating every face, every uncertainty. The cloaked figure shrieked, momentarily blinded by the radiance, while the disciples shielded their eyes, shielding the flickers of hope that ignited within. When the light faded, they gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. The shadows had warped, reshaping into ancient forms, faces of betrayed spirits, lost and veiled in agony, unseen figures consumed by despair and betrayal, echoing the multitude John had warned them about. As that grim specter moved among them, its presence palpable, fear seized the disciples anew. "They follow me because they are drawn to darkness," the figure hissed, its voice soothing yet laced with venom. "Their regrets, their hurts, they echo your own. The real question remains, do you dare confront what lies within?" Jesus stepped forward again, the brilliance returning to his gaze. Each word radiated power, shaking the very fabric of the air around them. "We will face the darkness, all the way to the end. But you, monster, will be the first to fall." Suddenly, almost as if awakened from a deep slumber, the ground responded, tremors shifting the landscape in rhythm to Jesus' words. The shadows quivered, their power waning but not extinguished. Then, beneath the cacophony of chaos, a new sound emerged, low, resonant, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. It pulsed with urgency, a call to arms that spoke directly to the core of their existence. "What is this?" Judas murmured, confusion rife in his heart. Jesus turned sharply, as if some divine beacon had just beckoned him. "A reckoning is coming. We must prepare for the truth that the dawn will reveal." As the disciples braced themselves for the confrontation awaiting them, a bone-chilling realization began to dawn. The shadows were not just around them, they were within them, lurking. And what heavy toll would that truth demand? Time was running out. The edge of night stretched ahead like a dark abyss. The dawn was closing in, and they could feel the storm brewing. Would their combined faith withstand the ultimate test? Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: the battle for their very souls had only just begun. The landscape shifted beneath them as the ground continued to tremble violently, a relentless reminder of the chaos surrounding their band of disciples. Shadows writhed like serpents, wrapping tighter around their resolve, suffocating the flicker of hope Jesus had ignited. Each disciple felt the chill of despair curling around their hearts, chilling their very essence. "Stand firm," Jesus commanded, unwavering in the face of darkness. He radiated strength, a beacon in the tempest. What we face now is not just a battle of the earth, but a clash of spirits. Each of you carries light within. Do not let the shadows snuff it out. Judas felt a fire ignite in his chest. His gaze snapped around the group. Peter's face was taut with determination, but the flicker of doubt remained a shadow of fear that clung stubbornly. John stood resolute, though his skin glistened with sweat, a sign of the weight he bore. Suddenly, a piercing shriek echoed through the air, causing them to flinch. The cloaked figure moved among the shadows, the embodiment of their anxieties. "You think you can vanquish me?" it hissed. "Your fear, your betrayal, they drown you. Look into my eyes and see the truth you bury." With that, an air of dread descended like a blanket, heavy and suffocating. The disciples recoiled, their knees wobbling as the air thickened with memories that clawed at their minds. Images of failures bubbled up, heartaches they feared to confront, Peter's denials, Judas's whispers of doubt, the scars left by unheeded dreams. Then came the voice of the figure again, deeper, more menacing. "Can you bear to confront your own shadows? Or will you let them consume you?" "No!" shouted Judas, his voice threading through the despair like a thread of gold. "We choose to face them." And with that proclamation, a wave of courage surged through him. It ignited something in the others, like an unlit match struck against a rough surface. "We choose to face them," echoed Peter, his tone rising above the din of despair. The others joined in, their voices merging into a powerful anthem that broke the stranglehold of silence. "We are not afraid." Yet the cloaked figure's laughter rang out, echoing like the wind through the trees. "How foolish you all are! This battle is not merely against me, but against yourselves. What will you do when the dawn reveals your deepest fears? Who will you be then?" At that moment, the shadows writhed again, twisting into figures of anguish, faces contorted with despair. Their cries echoed the regrets held deep within the disciples. Each face was a reminder of what they tried to forget. Judas faltered for a second, the memories overwhelming him. He clenched his teeth, the lump in his throat suffocating. What if the shadows consumed him? What if his doubts were all true? But in the space of that fraught heartbeat, he remembered Jesus' words, the light of hope igniting anew. "Let the dawn come," Jesus called, as if to challenge the encroaching darkness. "Let it reveal every shadow, every regret. We will emerge stronger." His voice rose, defiant amid chaos. With renewed determination, the disciples closed ranks, their intertwined hands forming an unbreakable bond. Together, they surged forward, confronting the cloaked figure, their hearts pounding as one powerful entity. But just as they neared the figure, a deafening roar erupted, the earth shook violently, and blinding light erupted once again. A surge of power coursed through the disciples, sending shockwaves of energy that felt like fire within their veins. "Now!" Jesus commanded, his voice steady. "Now is the time to fight." Above that piercing light, a new fear gripped Judas. What if this confrontation revealed more than they were ready to face? As the shadows spiraled and the essence of despair coalesced into a vortex of memories, a terrible thought pierced him. Were they truly ready to face their truths? Or was it already too late? The dawn was approaching, and its light would soon shine on everything they dared to hide. What would be revealed? The blinding light enveloped them, a burst of energy that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their beings. Judas tightened his grip around the hands of Peter and John, feeling the pulse of their shared fear and courage. The piercing roar echoed, drowning out their thoughts, urging them forward into the storm. "Together!" Jesus shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. It rang clear and powerful, a guiding star amid a cosmic storm. We faced this, together. But memories surged like tidal waves, crashing over them despite their resolve. Each disciple confronted the vision swirling in the light. Peter stood alone on the water, gasping for breath as doubt dragged him down. John hung back, heart pounding as whispers filled his mind, sowing turmoil about loyalty and love. Even Judas grappled with shadows of betrayal, specters of doubt draping over him like mist. "We can't back down," he yelled, forcing the shadows to recede with his defiance. "We're not alone." Yet the cloaked figure loomed large, laughing as the darkness thickened. "Run, hide! You can't escape yourselves," it taunted, each word laced with venom. "When the dawn comes, you'll wish you had never unsealed this fate." In response, Jesus spread his arms wide, embracing the light that fought against the darkness. "The dawn reveals the truth," he declared, his voice cutting through the cacophony. The disciples rallied behind him, their hearts racing, a unified front against the chaos swirling around. Slowly, the ground began to settle beneath their feet, the quaking trembling into a low rumble as if the world itself hesitated. A line formed in the horizon, a hint of gold piercing through the engulfing darkness. Judas felt his heart quicken. Could hope be waiting on the other side of this tumult? Just as that possibility ignited a spark in his chest, a chilling shriek sliced through the air. The cloaked figure's eyes glimmered with malice, glancing at each disciple as if searching for weakness. "You stand at the edge of a precipice. Will you fall? Will you embrace this light only to be consumed by its fire?" In a flash, images roared back in a flickering montage, betrayals that darkened their souls, each scar a pulse of pain that cracked through their bond. Judas's chest tightened, the weight of guilt he had carried for so long clawed its way back to the surface. Was the dawn merely a window to their failures? But Jesus stepped closer, his face radiating calm. "Face them. They will not define us." He squared his shoulders, breathing deeply, a lifeline to the others as they drew strength from his unwavering gaze. Filled with tumult, Judas could only stare as the light grew brighter, illuminating more than just the path ahead. It laid bare their fears, their failings, and the very essence of who they were. The shadows began to shift, transforming into forms they each recognized, every figure a ghost demanding confrontation. "This is your moment," the cloaked figure bellowed, desperately twisting the shadows around them, creating a whirlwind of memories and demons. Each whisper clawed at them, a siren-esque call urging them to give in to despair. "Don't listen!" roared Peter, his voice pierced with conviction amidst the howling chaos. "They are not our masters." But Judas's voice caught in his throat. The truth was unbearable. Were they really willing to face the darkness, to shine light in the corners they'd long hidden from? He searched the faces of his companions, their expressions fierce with determination, yet laced with doubt. As the first rays of dawn broke fully across the horizon, slicing through the chaos, Judas's breath hitched. The cloaked figure writhed in fury as the blinding light grew. "This is far from over," it screeched, dissolving into shadows that shrieked like lost souls. Heart pounding in rhythm with the pulsating light, Judas steeled himself. What awaited them on the other side of the dawn? What truths would they face, and would they break or rise together? The dawn was just the beginning, and a fresh wave of fear surged through him. What if the revelations to come shattered everything they knew? What truths would the morning light unveil? As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, shadows danced and flickered, retreating from the growing warmth. The disciples stood together, their hearts racing, pulse synchronizing with the sun's ascent. The air around them shimmered, infused with hope as they realized they had faced the darkness and lived to tell the tale. "Look!" John gasped, pointing toward the eastern sky where golden rays shot through the clouds. "The light is here." Yet this light revealed more than just the beauty of the morning. It illuminated the truth hidden beneath layers of doubt and betrayal. Each disciple felt the weight of their past hanging like a heavy fog, but they also felt the awakening spirit of resilience rising within them. The cloaked figure that had once towered menacingly now shrank back with each passing moment, its form dissipating like a nightmare fading into reality. "You thought you could contain me," its snarled voice dripping with disdain. The doubts will return, stronger than before. Let them! Judas shouted, his voice fierce and unwavering. They're a part of us, but they do not define us. With renewed strength, the disciples held hands, forming a chain that pulsed with energy. Peter stepped forward, his heart bold and clear as he spoke. Together, we confront the weight of our choices. Together, we embrace our bond, marked by flaws and redemption. Jesus steadied himself at the center, radiant with a command that resonated through the air. We are more than our mistakes. Here, now, we redefine what is written for us. He looked each disciple in the eye, a fierce glimmer igniting a fire within their spirits. The shadows encroached again, teasing at the edges of their resolve, but the disciples breathed in their collective strength, holding fast to what they had fought for. Jesus' steady presence provided a foundation, leading the charge against the lingering darkness. In that moment of unity, clarity washed over Judas. He felt the pain of his past choices, but with each flicker of light that brushed across his skin, he also felt the coolness of forgiveness wrapping around him, lifting the burden he'd worn for far too long. I know now, he said, voice trembling yet powerful, that love is greater than betrayal. My choices can't undo what is in my heart. Then, as if on cue, the cloaked figure let out a wretched scream, fading into nothingness as the golden rays enveloped the garden. Your dawn may shine bright, but night will always return. It howled, dispersing into the ether as if to herald a greater darkness still awaiting on the horizon. The disciples stood tall, their shadows stretching long under the warm sun, yet they felt lighter somehow, hope blooming in their hearts like flowers breaking through thawing ground. As the realities of the past began to settle, they understood that while the coming days would not be without challenge, they now had something monumental: each other. Their bond transcended the hurt and betrayal of the night before. They had witnessed darkness, faced it down, and emerged united and transformed. Thank you, my friends, Jesus spoke, voice low and compelling, earnest in its resonance. You stood with love in your hearts. You fought against despair. And when the dawn came, you chose light. A new path unfolded before them, a journey that would call upon their truths, fears, and scars, call upon their willingness to forgive and to love again. They took a breath, feeling the cool morning dew beneath their feet, recognizing that each step forward carried weight. Together, we carry this light into the world, Peter said, determination etching itself into his features. Let us be the messengers of hope and love. They turned as one to leave the garden, embracing the sun's rays as their guide. A profound sense of closure enveloped them. It was a farewell to the night, and all that it held, a final nod to the fear they had momentarily harbored. They had chosen unity, and that made all the difference. As they walked into their new dawn, each step echoed with purpose, a promise to nurture the light within them, to be living symbols of love, loyalty, and redemption against the shadows that would always linger too close for comfort. Their hearts beat as one, each pulse affirming their strength, their courage, and their unbreakable bond. Now, dear friends, as we conclude this journey together, it's your turn to step forward. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart and ignite your spirit. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Let's build this community stronger together. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and feel the magic of unity and hope. Let us spread the light.